All right. So now an official welcome to this Lunch and Learn. Thank you for being here. We're doing this with a webinar software, so we can't see you. So if you would like to ask a question after Maxime's presentation today, you could just raise your hand using the little hand icon down on the bottom of or on your toolbar, or can they send a chat to you, Emily?
Yes.
To just please put questions in the chat as we go along, and we'll cover as many questions as possible following the what Maxime has to present today. So the topic is the Food Systems Project Accelerator. And this is Maxime's going to tell us all about this opportunity, which opened for applications yesterday. So things are really happening now. And Maxime's one of the project managers at NABC, and we're so glad that you're going to present today, Maxime. Thanks so much. Go ahead and get started when you're ready.
Thank you, Marty. I think I see some people in the room that were at the meeting yesterday. So nice to see you again. My name is Maxime Etilé. I am a project manager with the Northwest Agriculture Business Center, NABC. And so talking about the project Accelerator, which is part of the Western Washington Food System Partnership. So I will talk a little bit about the partnership first, and then the Accelerator more specifically. Next slide, please. So what's the WWFSP, short for Western Washington Food System Partnership? It comes from it's a grant that NABC is managing. It's a USDA grant, which is a regional food system partnership grant, and the grant had different objectives, and objective one, what came out of the objective one of the partnership and the grant is the steering committee. So the steering committee, if you go to the next slide, please. So the steering committee had different goals, and but it's all about food systems, how to support food system, and in particular, the grant focusing on support for infrastructure. So that's the main goal of the steering committee is to support infrastructure. But when we talk about food systems, what are we talking about, right? So here in this little schematic, we see it comes from production at the farm or ranchers, to distribution, aggregation, food processing, marketing, markets, going to markets, preparation, consumption, waste that is often forgotten in the food system. But the whole thing then becomes a food system, and you see how they are interconnected, and people all along that chain, you have people, right? So the next slide, please, is so we're talking a little more about the WWFSP. So some of the goals of the steering committee. First, you see on the right, the counties in red are the counties that are that we serve in the WWFSP. So Whatcom, Skagit, Snohomish, King, Pierce, Lewis, Pacific, Grays Harbor, Mason, and Thurston County. So first of all, the projects that we take applications for need to be in one of these 12 counties, or sometimes in several counties, but it has to be in that geographical location. So a goal of the steering committee is to increase value-added food production. But when we say, for example, increasing value added, of course, we take into consideration, again, because we are in a food system, we take into consideration the production. So on the farm, raising animals, etc. Another goal is regional collaboration to advance a regional strategy aligned with a unified vision for agriculture development. So that's one of the needs that has been identified, is the need for regional collaboration. It's really hard to think of a food system in King County if we don't, take into consideration Island County or Pierce County, Snohomish, right? And so it's really a regional effort. Support of infrastructure projects for value-added food processing and distribution, enhancing and improving efficiencies. So that's, where you would think of food hubs, for example, where you have producers that come together, aggregate their products, and get to markets, and get to reach different people, different counties, different places. And then the next slide, we have a few more goals to provide direct technical assistance, increasing the effectiveness of agriculture development initiatives. So that's maybe more specifically what the accelerator will be about, technical assistance. But when you will see the way we do the accelerator, then it also contributes to all the other goals of the steering committee. And then we also support business expansion and access to capital. So that's also part of what we do with the accelerator. The technical assistance that we provide can be grant writing, access to funds, to grants, and etc. So that's where mostly our action with the accelerator fits. So the next one, here we go. So again, the program, the FSPA for short, is for technical assistance. So that's a question I get sometimes is, do we give money? No, not directly. The program doesn't have at this point. Maybe later on, we're hoping that we're able to have some kind of pot of money that we can support projects with. But right now, we offer technical assistance. The services are customized to the needs of the awardees. So basically, I will explain a little bit more about the application process, the review process. But once an awardee is selected, I coordinate this program. I have a conversation with them, understanding a little bit more about their projects, where they are at, what are their needs, and what we can offer. So it's really trying to match things. And when I say what we can offer, it's not just NABC, but and it's also the steering committee at large, but also so what services the members of the steering committee can offer to that awardee, and then also when we can't find something either at NABC or in the steering committee, we can look farther out, to the network that we have of technical assistance providers, Like there's a project I will talk about later. We found someone who's on the East Coast, who's a consultant and is helping one of the projects. So we look for the expertise where it is. And of course, all these services like project planning, grant writing, implementation of grant and access to administrative support. All these services really can boost a project, right? That's the idea. And you will see also that of the project we have received and the awardees that we have, the projects can be at very different stages. So some of them can be really just an idea of some people coming together, having an idea, and so we look at what are the services that can get the project started, but we see the potential for the food system, for improving the food system in there. And then we have other projects that are already in, maybe they already have the building and the equipment, but they are looking at how to best use the facility that they have, and so we can help with that too. So so the project Accelerator started in 2022. The grant started in 2020, and then the time for the steering committee to be in place and create a subcommittee that took on the task of so the idea of the steering committee was and the subcommittee was, how do we want to do technical assistance, but how do we choose the projects that are most aligned with the mission of the partnership, that have most that have most impact in the communities that they serve, and so that's when the subcommittee in particular came up with the idea of having this what's now the Accelerator project, or the Project Accelerator, and created the review process. So there's a pre-application and then an application and the review process. The subcommittee created a scorecard, and so the scorecard, for example, we look. There are three main sections in the way we evaluate the projects. The first one is the mission alignment. So the project, is it really a food system project? Is it, how many people does it impact? If it's a small community of 2,000 people, we might be like, okay, is that really what we want to, the kind of project we want to support? Then the second section of evaluation is the beneficiaries and the diversity, equity, and inclusion considerations. So what kind of populations would be most impacted by this project? Is the project trying to address some inequities that exist in the food system? So we evaluate that too. And then the third section is management, capacity, and sustainability of the project. So we look at, who's behind the project. Do they have already, some projects have funding to pay some people already employed, and so we look at that. The sustainability is like, do they already have funding? Do they have access to funding? Do they, all these things. And so it's really about evaluating the projects, and so there's a point system, and so we can say that it's an objective evaluation of the different projects. So the first round was in 2022. That was successful. We had 3 awardees. And so we just followed the same process in 2023. And so we had the second round with 3 awardees again. Oh, you can stay in the other. Yeah, there. Thank you. And like Marty said in the introduction, just yesterday we opened the 3rd round of the Accelerator. And so we invite, either people who are here today in the room who have projects. We invite you to submit a pre-application. I will explain a little bit more about that. Or if you are service providers, or you are in contact with people that, have projects that you think could be a good fit for the Accelerator, send them to the WWFSP website to submit a pre-application. And so we have received 19 pre-application in 22 and 23. And so the pre-application is, we kept it simple so that people don't have to fill out the full application only to realize that, they are not in the 12 counties, or their project is not a food system project. So we really wanted to have just a few questions in the pre-application, easy for people to fill out. And so we look at, is it a food system project? The example I give is that we got, an application for someone who wanted to build a barn on their farm. And we don't really see the connection with, other farmers or the supply chain, for particular kind of products, that a value-added product maybe that would come from that farm. We didn't see any of that. So for us, it's like, this project is not really a food system project. It doesn't look at the different areas and connections of the food system. So then we tell the people, sorry, thank you for submitting a pre-application, but this is not what we look for here. So 13 of them were invited to submit a full application. So after you submit your pre-application in the three days that follow, we will let you know if we invite you to submit a full application or your project is not, doesn't fall into the criteria that we follow. So in 2022, the 3 awardees were Fair Start, Pierce Conservation District, and the Lopez Food Center. So Fair Start, if you don't know, is an organization, it's a nonprofit in Seattle that does training for food preparation and food industry training for people, who may have fallen off the education system or have, some difficulties in their life and want, to get professional training, technical training, and so that's originally maybe that's their core, I would say, activity. But then it has grown considerably, and they have, also ventured into other things connected to the food industry and the food system. And so they had a project of using products that would not be used for food, like in their case, for example, they wanted to use old bread to make croutons or breadcrumbs. And so how to I was talking about the waste part, in the food system. In their case, it was how to use a product a product that would go to waste, how to take it out of that waste basket and use it and repurpose it. So that's typically, a food system project. So we decided to do it. So they were awarded the technical assistance and we connected them. So this is a good example of NABC didn't have the specific expertise that they needed for that project. They were looking really at business development or business planning before development. So they were more at the business planning part. And so we connected them to the Business Impact Northwest that, they have a good what is it called? I forgot the exact name, but they have a food program specific for, business development for food enterprises. So we connected them with that, with Business Impact Northwest. The Pierce Conservation District, their project is a farm incubator program. It's aiming to launch new farm businesses by making farmland, equipment, infrastructure, and learning opportunities available and accessible. And within this project, one goal was to create new farm business owners within BIPOC communities to address historical inequities in the farm system and grow a new generation of farmers. So this is and you see, how projects can be very different. This one is more, getting people, giving people access to land when originally they don't, and so people grow the food, and then they encourage them, to go into value-added businesses, and with an emphasis on the BIPOC population of Pierce County. So at this time, it's a project manager of NABC that is working with them. So since they applied, they were still developing that incubator farm, the Goss Farm, it's called, in Pierce County and near Puyallup, I think. And so we have a project manager at NABC that works with them. They have, expanded the farm that they had started. They put a greenhouse, they put a cooler. I haven't been there lately, but the project keeps growing. And now they are again expanding their operations in that project. So that is developing. And then if we go to the next one, the Lopez Food Center. So very interesting. So this one is on so geographically also different. Is on the Lopez Island, and it's a multi-use facility offering cross-sector food system infrastructure like kitchen, cold storage, community spaces, and even housing, because especially, for example, on the island, we know the difficulties of farm workers, for example, to find housing, or food businesses. A lot of the activities sometimes on the island, there's a higher population in the summer. There's more activity, especially in the food business, and they had that issue there. So that's where we see, the food system kind of thinking, where things are connecting with different areas of economic development. So very interesting project there. And then in 2023, we had 3 more awardees. Taproot Lopez Kitchen. So again, in Lopez Island. So we could say, well, why, Lopez twice, and then it's the kitchen too. But that's another example that shows that sometimes, so one of the advantages of the accelerator is that we have, by attracting, these applications, we have a higher, I would say, vision of what can be happening in a certain area, right? So in Lopez Island, these two projects kind of knew about each other, but NABC definitely um, facilitated, more conversation in between the two projects, to more coordination, to so that they don't, overlap too much, and they don't offer necessarily the same services. So while the Lopez Food Center is really more centered on the community, so it's a community space with like um, cooking classes, and professional development classes and things like that. The Taproot Kitchen is more of the processing, value-added production kind of thing. And they already have a kitchen there, and they are expanding with a second one that they don't have, for example, ovens in the first one, and they are expanding, offering baking facility, and they are also looking at being maybe a co-packer, so like processor on the island that would need to have a pretty big production and finding markets, typically maybe Seattle or King County, and having that kind of uh, of production in the kitchen, so people can rent the kitchen for production. And then another project. No, let's stay in the other there. Okay. Another project is the Agriculture Resources Committee on Island County, so Whidbey Island. And again, very different. This one is about meat processing. So it's a group of farmers and ranchers and other food system organizations that came together on Lopez Island, Whidbey Island this time, and looking at really the need for meat processing, and whoever knows about meat in this region knows that it's not only on Whidbey Island that we have this problem with meat processing, but being on an island there are added challenges there, right? So what they've told us is that there had been attempts at meat processing on the island, not very successful for different reasons. One was very successful, but the guy couldn't, for other reasons, couldn't keep up with it. So so one of NABC's project managers is working with them to do a feasibility study. So this one maybe is more at the idea stage, where it's like, does that make any sense to have, poultry processing, for example, on the island? So that's what we want to find out, is it worth going further, developing a project, looking for funding, etc. So feasibility study to start with. And then next slide. I think I'm doing pretty good on time. I want to leave enough time at the end for questions. Cascadian Seafair, again. So now we're going in a completely different industry. We're looking at seafood and fish, and so the idea is to create a supply chain for underutilized fish species in Washington. Very interesting, where you have, do I have like, yeah, it's not on the slide, but there are species of fish in Washington that, for example, are used commonly in other areas or other countries, and that sometimes is a byproduct of what they catch, here. Oh, you can, but in Washington, is underutilized. So the idea is, for this group is to develop a supply chain for these underutilized species, so that they are fish caught and then processed, and then all the way down the chain to maybe restaurants, stores. So and developing products that maybe people are not used to here. So finding markets and all that. So it's a pretty big project, and it's at the idea stage. So and the idea is to create a co-op to make that happen. So the technical assistance that we agreed upon to start with is for example, the co-op part. So because it's important for a project like this that you have, people coming together. It's like, okay, how do we convene them? How do they come together, and come around a common idea to create an actual project, right? So we are partnering with the Northwest Cooperative Development Center to offer technical assistance with co-op development for them. At the same time that we are helping finding funding for the supply chain development. So for the, trying to see how we can help the fishermen and all the way up the supply chain. So very different projects, and these are newer in the program, so we're still working on. We're still working, on most of them, but this is newer, so in development. Yeah, and then I think after that is just the next slide, please. Yeah, it's just the announcement that I said. Pre-applications are open until March 1st, 5 p.m. and the full application. So once, like I said, we let you know that we ask you to submit the full application, then you will have until March 29 to submit that. And we will announce the awards at the end, around the end of April. And yeah, I think that's what I have for now, and I will take questions.
That's great. Thank you, Maxime. So Abba corrected me in the chat that the best way to enter questions is in the Q&A, feature on your toolbar. And or you can raise your hand icon and Emily can make it possible for you to be heard. So we do have one question in there already, and people feel free to just add your questions and we'll go through them here. We have time. So the first question from Misha is, when you find private consultants like the one on the East Coast who you mentioned, do you help cover the costs of those consultants, or is the act of connecting a project with a consultant the main benefit of being an Accelerator recipient?
Yeah, great question. So then we go into how this program and this is funded. So the partnership is funded, the funding covers, for example, my role as coordinating. So all the review and, all the work that we do until people, projects are awarded, all that work, and then coordinate, and then, meeting with the awardees and coordinating things. But after that, so even if it's, for example, NABC, taking on a project, like I mentioned, a few of them, we have project managers helping. And then for NABC, we use, funds from other sources, right? It's not really directly from the partnership. And so, and when we tap into, the Northwest Cooperative Development Center or the Business Impact Northwest, in that case, they were able to fund that technical assistance with funding that they have. But specifically, Misha, your question about that contractor on the East Coast, in this case, NABC is gonna pay him, with our own funds. I hope that answers the question.
Oh, okay. You don't have access to chat. Thank you, Maxime. And
I
Misha,
I thought I'd already enabled the chat, but it isn't. And it's enabled for everyone now, or it should be.
okay, and there's also that Q&A feature. I hope you can see that, everybody. And so feel free to use that. And also, if you want to just ask a question verbally, that's fine too.
That's
Just
what I was gonna ask. Can they do that actually? Yeah. Okay.
yeah. Okay, and I'm not seeing any other questions at this moment. I'll just ask one. And
Abba or Micha she raised her hand and she's allowed to talk. So.
oh, good.
Hi, everybody. I'm sorry. I have no idea who's in the room, so apologies. But yeah, I'm still just trying to suss out a little bit more about the process and the funding. And I guess I come from a state agency that is publicly funded, and so in my mind, all of the projects that are relevant to the local food system that benefit local food producers in particular warrant technical assistance. And so the projects that aren't selected, if they still have a good mission that's in alignment with maybe WSDA's resources, I guess I'm just curious about how that decision is made. And then are those people referred to other agencies like ours that can help? I would think like Business Impact Northwest might still be interested in helping those folks, even if they don't make it through the Accelerator program. So like technical assistance is something that we just provide as part of our work. And so I'm just curious a little bit about sort of like, I don't want to call it gatekeeping, but sort of how that process unfolds and how people that aren't accepted can still get the resources they need to be successful, because that's ultimately our mission.
Yeah, thank you for that. So first of all, we're so happy to have you, for example, Misha, in the group, because that's really how it works, is that we have partners, in the partnership, in the steering committee or in the wider network, who, just what you said, it's like, hey, we're here to help. So for us, what I do to speak more concretely, when people are not, for example, awarded, I look at, their application, their needs, and I send them a list of resources that, I think can be helpful. So I've sent people, I say, hey, you might want to look at WSDA, or, USDA has these fundings, or I can, but usually I have a list, of links and resources that I send them. But having people like you, Misha, and WSDA in the room, in the partnership, is really helpful, because then, I can refer these applicants, directly to you and to the partners and say, even if you are not awarded, these are the partners we have. Please look into contacting them and finding resources. Does that help, Nisha?
Yes, thank you.
And Maxime, if there's a partner or an organization that's not part of the steering committee that would like to make themselves available for providing technical support, what's the best way for them to let you know what they might be able to offer?
Abba, can you help with that?
Yeah, I think, sorry, can everybody hear me? I don't know which mic I'm using at this point. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, well, first of all, I want to say if anyone's interested in joining the steering committee, I know we have 2 folks on the call already who are, but there is an interest form on the website. If you go to WWFSP.org, there is an interest form to join the steering committee. And I think the idea is that folks, within the steering committee, we ask that if anybody has capacity, that they serve on the reviewer team. The next round of applications just opened today, so we'll be reaching out. Maxime will be reaching out soon on that. But if you're not part of the steering committee, we definitely invite you to get in touch through the website to say, I don't have capacity to be on the steering committee, but if I'd love to make sure that you're aware of the technical services that we provide. And I think it's an ongoing mapping exercise to make sure that we're aware. Like, that is Maxime's job, is to understand what all of the technical assistance providers are offering in the area. So that's part of the benefit of being selected. And I know Business Impact Northwest has been working on a mapping exercise to make sure that all of the organizations and what they do and provide is clear to everyone, and they have more information about that. But yeah, it's a revolving door of who's doing what in the food system. So we try to stay on top of things. But if there's someone in particular that who would be a beneficial technical assistance provider for the applicants and for those who are selected, that's kind of what we're leaning on the steering committee to do, is to help us to help Maxime point them in the right direction. So it's a group effort, and it's constantly changing, but we're trying to stay involved and in tune with what's actually available and who's offering what. So, long-winded way of saying, get in touch with us if you think you're being underutilized in the food system.
I'll also add back to Misha's question before. I think sometimes, specifically with WSDA, people can, when they're really like a project or an idea is in its infancy, people can be hesitant to come out to agencies that they see as like regulatory, even if maybe your technical assistance programs aren't regulatory. I think people just have that image. So it's kind of nice for them, I think, to come to a separate entity and sort of vet it out and get some advice on how to get it to the next level, where they could then go to the WSDA or another agency that they might be a little intimidated to go to initially. So I think that's this is sort of like for baby projects that are not quite there yet. And then we certainly do refer all applicants to all available resources. That's like a big something Maxime actually really was pushed for initially. It was like, well, we want them to know what's out there and what their options are, even if we're not going to be the ones to help them.
Again, if anybody has any questions, just raise your hand icon so Emily can make it possible for you to be heard, or use the Q&A box, Q&A button on your toolbar. I just was wondering, Maxime, I know all projects are welcome regardless of what stage they're at and you know, what type of support they may need. But I'm wondering if there are certain areas that you'd really love to see a project application from, like geographically, or certain like types of technical assistance, or types of projects you'd really love to see people moving forward and at this time with this round.
Yeah, short answer is no, I don't have anything specific in mind. And I think from experience, really, like with the first two rounds, like I said, we have such a variety of projects. Some of them we were a little bit aware of, you know, it's like, oh, we know, you know, it comes in as an application and we're like, oh yeah, we've heard about this, we heard about that, you know. And others, it's like, oh, we had no idea, you know. So I kind of, you know, want to stay open that way, you know, where it's really, yes, please, any, you know, any project that is food system related, you know, feel free to apply. But your question, Marty, makes me think of an I can say a challenge that we have in this program is that is really the sometimes it's difficult to see a good project coming in with an application and everything, but we don't have the resources, in particular, for example, in the steering committee or in the network that we have in a particular region. For example, so you have conservation districts that are part of the steering committee, but you have the Pierce Conservation, the Snohomish Conservation, you know, and then we don't have the one in Lewis County. And so it's like, oh, the conservation, you know, district would be great to, you know, to help these people, but we, you know, we don't have contacts there. We don't have we haven't been able to, you know, to get that resource. So that's also where, like, you know, you were asking Marty about certain geographical locations. It's like, we want to serve all these 12 counties. And actually, just this morning, I had a question about Clallam and Jefferson, and maybe we're gonna expand, you know, and later on to other counties if we have the service providers, you know, the technical assistants in these other counties too, that come and join the team and the group, you know, to offer services in all counties, you know, and all. So it's really, I think what Emily was saying, and Abba, it's really building, you know, that capacity to really be able to serve as many people as we can.
Thank you. And I see quite a few people would like to ask questions. Let's just go from what I think is the top, which is Allison. Would you like to speak, Allison?
Hi, I'm Allison, the Community Engagement Manager from Whidbey Conservation District. I'm interested in hearing more about kind of what the requirements are, time commitment for participating in the steering committee.
Would you like to address that one, Abba?
Yeah, that's all listed out in the form I posted in the chat. The ask and the time commitment. But essentially, we're asking for a quarterly meeting with you. We just had our February meeting yesterday. We also will invite you to engage with the Lunch and Learn series and to suggest speakers to help promote and or present yourselves on the work that you're doing. And then to serve as a reviewer for the technical assistance program that the Accelerator program that Maxime's talking about. But we realize everybody's really busy. Really, the core idea is that we're staying in touch so that we can reduce redundancies and collaborate. So that's all listed out in the top of the form in the chat. But if you have any other questions, feel free to get in touch with me you can do that through the WWFSP website, and I'll put it in the chat as well.
And I'd just like to add, yay, please.
Yes.
Yes. Hi, Chris. Do you want to ask a question? So nice to have you here.
Is that me?
Yeah, that's you.
Oh, I wasn't expecting to be called out. No, I don't think I have any questions.
I
Oh,
did, I
Did-
allowed everyone to talk just to give them more leeway to jump in. And I wonder if that to you, Marty, looks like,
it does.
Yeah, I
so
also got
sorry.
a
That
no
was
worries.
my fault.
I got a message, yeah, pop-up thing that said you've asked to ask a question. I think I might have hit like a key on my keyboard that did that too. So
I'm
it may have
still getting
shown
the
up.
hang of the webinar. Sorry.
Yes, it might have shown up on your end that I was trying to ask a question because I hit the wrong key. That also is possible.
No worries. We are having techno learning here on our end too, because this is our second time doing this as a webinar format and
Right.
don't know all the features either. But it's nice
Well,
to
it's
hear
great
your
to talk
voice.
to you.
Yeah, really. Been a long time. Okay,
But
so anybody
Misha's the only one with her hand up. I think that
Yeah, I see Misha's.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hi, Chris. Yeah, I'm curious about, and I guess I could really poke around on the website a little better and check, but I'm curious if there is a report to share about the first round of recipients and what resources they received and how, if there's any impacts to their projects that they've shared.
Yeah, I've been asked that also before. So we don't have a report right now on that. I can share with people in the steering committee, the assistance that was offered. And like I said, these projects are, a lot of that is still happening. But yeah, the idea is that we would, we will have this kind of reporting back and hopefully get some good success stories, of
And
projects.
oh, sorry, Maxime.
No, go ahead.
No, I spoke with Kristen McIver yesterday from Pierce Conservation District and got some awesome, just a verbal report from her that we were going to try to convey visually as well. But she said, so Luke, our project manager from NABC, helped them apply for 2 grants, the WSDL LFI grant that they were awarded and the Russell Family Foundation grant, which they were also awarded. And he is helping them since they're new to developing infrastructure, and he's an old hat at it, both as a farmer, a restaurant owner, everything. He's going to help them purchase all of the equipment as well, because I know that part can be really intimidating. And so they were excited to have his help. So that was from the first round, the Pierce County Conservation District award. That's one I have off the bat that's been successfully funded and was very happy. And we're gonna, and that kind of, obviously set some bells off. Like, we need to get this all on paper and and interview everyone and make sure everyone else is receiving the help they need and achieving what they want. And realistically, I'm sure not everyone will be awarded or it'll work, because that's just kind of how it goes with projects, and especially at the different levels they were at. So but that, I was very happy to hear that, at least that 2022.
Yeah, and I can say from the 2022 round, the Lopez Food Center, we have helped them with, they needed really a construction planning manager kind of thing, and we were able to help them with that. And so they are, I don't know if they've broken ground yet, but they are very close to that. In the Lopez Food Center, but another side also is the Fair Start project. I reached out several times to them and haven't heard back after that. So and I know that Fair Start, has gone through challenging times, and probably, you know, some projects fell off and they had to restructure, you know, many of their programs and stuff. So, and you know, that's all part of you know, the life of a project, right? So.
Well, we have about another minute for any final comments from Maxime or Abba or Emily, or another question. If anybody has a last minute question, throw it out there.
Oh, it's me again.
Go
I
for
just
it.
want to reiterate that I think it would be really important and relevant and necessary to get that feedback, because if we're sending really busy people who are building projects through a sort of competitive application process, that takes a lot of time and energy. You know, it's like, let's make sure that they're getting value out of the project. And we might know that they are just because we're doing that work, but it's really good to have those metrics to make sure that we're really delivering the resource that we say we are, and that they're getting value out of it, and that it made sense for them to go through that process.
All right, thank you. Okay, and thank you, Maxime, for all the information. Do you want to just tell people the dates one more time for the applications?
Yeah, so you pre-applications until March 1st, applications until March 29, and like Abba mentioned, if you want to join the steering committee, please do. We need more people. We need more service providers. We also need reviewers. It's been fun and really like getting to read these applications, and you know, really enriching really for the reviewers. So please join us to review the applications, and I think that's it.
I pulled up the WWFSP.org website here, and you can hopefully see my screen. At the top is Project Accelerator. You would click there to get the information on the pre-application process. And then if you would like to see what we have coming up, which I'm going to click on right now, you click on Events, Lunch and Learns, and we have the whole series up here on the website. So next, it will from now on be the second Thursday of the month at noon. And the next one will be our very own Emily Mankey, along with Shannon Bly, talking about the Washington Food Hub Network Collective Impact Report that they are putting together. And after that, in April, we will have David, Belinda, and Dixon and Jerry from Wakulima, and they will talk about their exciting work and farming program. And then in May, we'll have Alex and Juan of NABC talking about the Latin Business Development Program. So we hope you can join us for all of those, and please pass the word along to your colleagues and friends. And thank you so much. Also, one more plug. Please fill out an app. Oh, well, you can register for all of these Lunch and Learns down right under what I showed you on this same events page. And please also fill out a evaluation of a feedback form using the link that Emily just put in the chat there, which hopefully you can all see. All right. Thank you so much, everybody, and we'll sign off now, and I hope you all have a great weekend.